In this video, we're looking at interest groups. We want to understand who they are, what they are, how do they impact policies, how do they go about influencing policies, and the impact they have on society and the trends that they set. All right, so we're going to begin with a definition of what interest group is. Right? It says here, these are groups where members have similar interest, and agenda. This is very critical for them to have similar interests because that creates the platform for them to come together to promote that interest and agenda. It says here, and seek to promote such interest and agenda by influencing public policy. That's what they do. That's interest group. Their main objective is to influence public policy towards promoting their interest, towards promoting their agenda. That's what they do. All right, so it says here they may have multiple objectives, right? So interest groups usually have multiple objectives that could be macro in scope. So this is small, macro, small, that is benefiting them as a group, right? So as a group, they may embark on objectives to benefit them as a group, or macro, which is large. This is large, that is benefit a larger group such as community, right? Or the society at large, right? So they may embark on objectives that will benefit a larger group, community, society at large. So for example, they may seek to provide security for a community as a macro objective, as a larger objective. A community may lack security and they may go about embarking on that, pressuring perhaps politicians to provide security for the community, right? And that impacts all in the community or society. They may seek to influence environmental policies or tax policies that impacts all in society, right? Everybody is impacted by that in society. So they have multiple objectives. They have economic objectives. Let's put that here. Economic objectives. They have political, this is political objectives. They have environmental, this is environmental objectives, right? They have fiscal, right, objectives, dealing with budget and so forth, and many more objectives. That is interest group. They seek to put pressure on government to promote their interest and agenda. And by so doing, they want to influence public policy. That's what they do, right? So here it says, interest groups are also known as pressure groups, right? Because they exert pressure on government, right? Or lobby groups, because they lobby government officials to influence policy and are very active in several spheres of society, especially in politics. We see it a lot in politics. They are all over the place, in capitals, in state capitals, provincial capitals, in nations' capitals. That's where you find them mostly, because that's where people that influence policy usually are. And you will find them there, pressuring these officials to influence tax policy, environmental policy, societal policies, economic policies, religious policies, and what have you. Those are interest groups. Their members come together because they have similar interests and agenda and seek to promote such interest and agenda by influencing, and this is very critical, by influencing public policy. And sometimes they have multiple objectives. As a matter of fact, most times they have multiple objectives, right? So let's put that here again. Let's highlight this. Multiple objectives. That, as we said before, it could be economics, right? It could be political, those objectives. It could be religious objectives, right? It could be fiscal objectives, environmental, and so forth, right? Because they are multi-dimensional. These interest groups are multi-dimensional, and that's what makes them very effective. So multiple objectives that could be macro, small in scope, that is, for example, benefiting a small group, right? Or macro, large, that is benefiting a larger group, such as community or society, right? And here are some examples of that. Providing security for community as a macro objective, or influencing environmental or tax policy as a micro objective as well, right? And these are good examples of how they influence policy on a large scale and how they impact society. and how they ensure that they move their interests and agenda forward and towards accomplishment, etc. They have a lot of influence. They have tactics they use to pressure politicians and officials. They have many methods of pressuring public officials, but that's what they do. That's who they are. Interest group, very, very effective tool to ensure that policy is influenced in society.